Hey guys,
Hello.
we're back. Hello and happy Wednesday. I believe today's Wednesday. So what are we talking about today? This was your topic that you wanted to talk about.
Well, we're going to attempt to do this a little more often. So I've been trying to come up with whether it be topics or just something that pops into my head. And one thing that popped into my head was the old expression, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. And where it came from and all the details associated with that. And it kind of got me thinking about us and what we do and where we come from and what all we've been through in life and been through the last week or two or month or two or year or two or whatever. And that's kind of it is the origins of that and what we do on a daily basis around that, around the expression, and it took me to a scripture in 1 Corinthians. Should have researched it. 9, I think, and it talks about Paul, as in when I go to the Jews, I act as a Jew, and when I go to the Gentiles, I act as a Gentile, and it's around that idea of why are we going there? What are we doing there? And did you look it up?
Yes.
Okay. Read it so I don't get too far off base. I can't read it. I don't have my old man glasses on.
The whole thing?
No. 9:19. Yep, read that.
For though I be free from all men, yet have I made myself servant unto all, that I might gain the more. And unto the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. To them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. To them that are without law, as without law. Being not without law to God, but under the law to Christ, that I might gain them that are without law. To the weak became I as weak, that I might gain the weak. I am made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. And this I do for the gospel's sake, that I might be partaker thereof with you. Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize? So run that ye may obtain. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible. I therefore so run, not as uncertainly, so fight I, not as one that beateth the air, but I keep under my body and bring it into subjection, lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway.
So we can go into a big giant mega church and talk there, or we can go to the bar and talk there. And since we've got ourselves accountable to Jesus, we've got ourselves accountable to each other, so that we can go anywhere with good intentions, with the right frame of mind to talk to anybody, to help anybody. And with our lives of all the divorces and all the stuff that we've been through, that we've got a unique perspective to talk to a whole lot more people. And that's the one thing that jumped into my head, and that's what I want us to kind of talk about, kick it around tonight a little bit, is that we can talk to a whole different section of people than most, I think. So we deal with a lot of church people nowadays, and divorce is a tricky one, because that's one of the few things, if not the only thing, that God really hates is divorce. And here we are, we work together so well because we've been through so many divorces, and that's not a great thing, but we're able to talk from that perspective a lot different, a lot better than a lot of people are. And just like talking to an alcoholic, you can't really connect with a active alcoholic that wants to get sober without being one. I mean, you might know the words to say, but until you really know the feeling that guy has when he's in his, when he's out there trying to fight the drinking, not drinking, all the things, it takes one to know one, and that's where we come together and branching out to help more and different people. So, a general overview of it, Paul could talk to Jews, he could talk to Gentiles, he could talk to, he went right into Greece and talked to them. He was a guy that knew multiple different languages, so he could talk the talk with a bunch of people, and that's one of the big reasons that God used him. And it's just very humbling to know that we might just have something like that, to be able to be more usable to God in more different places than, and certainly more than we'd like to admit. But we know that our lives put in God's hands can help others, and it's not, I don't know, it's not something we wanted to do, wasn't where we expected to be in life, but it's certainly being here and being in this position to talk to more people. And that's kind of what the whole podcast thing is about, the whole YouTube and InstaFace world and all those kind of things does help quite a bit, is to I don't know, put all our stuff on the table and see where God needs it to go.
Yeah, and I think, we've talked about it a couple of times in a couple of different of our podcasts and, with friends of ours, of trying, probably at some point in my life, it probably wasn't, the best of things to talk about or the prettiest of things to talk about is our past and our lives and all that. But when we turned it all over to God, of telling, having him to, we're going to lay it all on the table and just have him be able to use whatever he needs to use with whoever he needs to use it with, and us not be embarrassed of it. I mean, yeah, obviously all the divorces are not a badge of honor by any means, but being able to use every single past experience that we have, good or bad, for whoever and whenever we need to talk to somebody and speak to somebody. It's, nothing to be ashamed of, because God is a God of grace, and God is a God of forgiveness, and laying it all out on the table. He has wiped our slate clean, but at the same time, wiping our slate clean and forgiving us doesn't obviously take away the experiences that we have and the things that we have been through. And so being able to walk hand in hand with somebody that is going through something or dealing with something, and being like, it's not pretty. And yes, obviously, at the moment that somebody is going through something, I mean, you obviously feel like it is the end of the world and the worst thing ever and all the things that come with it. But both of us can look back on our lives and say, like, thank you, God, for bringing us from that point to where we are now. Thank you for getting us through that and, like, giving us the most amazing lives that we could ever have now. We would have never seen that, I don't think, in the middle of all of our stuff, And I just know from a personal experience, I know that in the middle of divorce or after a divorce, Satan really likes to play, the shame and the regrets and just all the things that come with it and that pile up. And with that, you start obviously feeling like you don't deserve anything better and you don't deserve anything more, which then leads you down a road of spiraling, and you start accepting things that are way less than what God has for you, and because your self-worth is whatever. But yeah, I think that God has put both of us into a position of being like it is absolutely not the end of the world. Yes, obviously, God doesn't love divorce, but there is redemption, and there is grace, and there is forgiveness in all of the things, and there is life after tragedy and life after all the bad things that could possibly go wrong. And that's not, it's not just divorce. It's all the things. But for us, the alcoholism, the divorce, the failed relationships, I don't know what else. That's probably the biggest of ours.
It's the biggest, yeah.
And disappointing people along the way, and, feeling like you don't live up to certain standards of things, when you do divorce, or, my parents have been married 65 years. Your parents have been married 50-ish.
52, yeah.
So we definitely don't come from families of divorce or from backgrounds of divorce, but it just, whether it be choices of ours, choices of somebody we were with, whatever the thing may be, and obviously too, if you have listened to any of our past podcasts, yes, I was raised in church, but the majority of my adult life, I was not walking with God. You definitely were not walking with God. And so had we been in a different place as far as walking with God at that time, who knows what would have happened. But that wasn't our journey, and that wasn't our story. And we choose to use all the good, bad, and ugly for God's kingdom and whatever He has for us. And knowing that, again, He has redeemed us, called us by name, put us in a place that we would have, neither one of us would have ever imagined. And I'm really proud of you, because you're like stepping out into the whole technology world. Well, maybe not the technology world, but you're putting it all on here, which is so not him. We've talked about that multiple times. But, we both want to use every experience, every choice, every thing of our past to be able to help others, and which means we have to lay it all out there.
And that's whenever I got sober, what's the best way to put that? Is that to get the sweet gift of sobriety, and then take that and keep it all to myself, to take that gift of sobriety and a connection with a higher power at the time, and then just go on top of a mountain and just sit there and do absolutely nothing with it. Yeah, proves that God might have sobered up the wrong guy. So that's stepping out and doing this kind of stuff is just me trying to prove that God didn't sober up the wrong guy, didn't bring the wrong guy to Jesus. So wherever I'm called to go, whatever I need to do, I better do it. And if that means go to a seedy crack house to talk to somebody, or sit in front of a computer and do a podcast once a week, doesn't matter. My vote is kind of irrelevant when it comes to that. If I've got something that can help somebody, I better not keep it to myself. And whatever crazy, horrible, awful story I've got in my past, some shameful act, if I'm just going to keep that buried in a closet, then it was for nothing. or I can let somebody else know of whatever awful story there is and how that's not the end of the world, and show them how I got through it. And then I can be more useful or usable in God's world. And so I've got to be able to go anywhere. And now with the perspective that I've got since coming to Christ, is I just think back to that guy that when I very first got sober, is I just angry and bitter and hated everybody and couldn't go an hour without drinking, and an atheist and talking bad about all Christians, all happy people, really. But I was I was a loud, arrogant atheist. And to know that Jesus Christ had me way back then, when I could prove that he didn't exist, he had me and loved me and cared for me. And here I am proving he can't exist. And he had me then. So of course he's got me now. Of course he knows that I'll be okay. He knows that I'll be just fine wherever it is, at a bar, in front of a computer, all points in between, at a mega church, at somebody's living room, and across the street to the neighbor, whatever. I'll be okay. Jesus has it. God's got me no matter what. So I've got to be willing to be used. Be willing to, whatever my life is now is based only on what it was, and to throw it all out there and let the Lord use it wherever it needs to go.
So what would be some advice or direction that you would give to somebody that's, I would say, either in the middle of divorce, verge of divorce, just went through divorce, something? What is some piece of advice that you would?
The truth is, divorce sucks. And
even if you can't stand the person, it sucks, okay?
It does. It's awful. It is absolutely awful. And it sounds crazy for us to say that, but had any of ours worked out, had we not gone through each one of all those horrible, awful things, we wouldn't be here now. But if you're not doing it, I mean, it's awful. It's awful. That first divorce I had, we hated each other, and there was no way it was ever going to work. And when we finally got divorced, it was awful. So the advice I would give is, don't. Do everything you possibly can to not do it. To do all you can to make sure you can stand in front of God and say, I tried. To do every option you can, whether it be counseling, therapy, church, all of it. Do all of it. And then, if it still has to happen, then it has to happen. But that's my advice, is try your best not to. It does. There is times when it is necessary. But if you can keep from doing it, do that.
Well, and throughout all of mine, I was 19 when I got married the first time. I'm 44 now. So from the very beginning, my parents, especially my dad, always told me, put God first, put God first, put God first. And even growing up in church, I guess it didn't even ever click for me about that. You can come up with every excuse known to man of why you don't want to wake up early on a Sunday morning, or why you don't want to go to church on a Friday night, or why, you can come up with all the excuses of other things that you could be doing, or other places you could be going, or, all the things. You can come up with every excuse. It never hit me until you and I, And had I been walking with God, the divorces probably would have never happened, but some of the marriages would have never happened. Let's just be honest. I can think of 2 off the top of my head that absolutely would have never taken place had I been walking with God. But, it wasn't until us that both of us decided, when we started dating, right off the bat, both of us were like, we don't care if we ever get married again. We're good with just dating. I make my own money. You make your own money. You have your own house. I have my own house. We both can afford our own vehicles. We don't have to support each other like we have in the past. And we're good with just like dating forever. And, it wasn't until months later that we started going to church and really digging in and trying to gain a relationship for ourselves with Christ, not just each other, but gain a relationship with Christ. And then fast forward a few months, God was dealing with both of us on doing things, tithing and, living together and just all the stuff of, okay, we really need to reevaluate where we are. We really need to evaluate what walk we're on, and we really need to evaluate the choices that we're making. And we sat down and it was like, okay, God's dealing with me on this. And it's like, yeah, God's dealing with me on this. And, it's like, yeah, I know we both said that we were never going to get married, and that's totally fine. And if that's the case, we just need to reevaluate, what our choices are and the things that we're doing, because we really wanted to do what it was that God had for us. And our future, and knowing that the choices that both of us made in the past hadn't got us in the greatest positions.
And as a direct result of reading the Bible, once you start reading the Bible and admit that this and this is absolutely true, but then to know that the whole thing is true, the whole thing is a rule book on life. And I remember the when I finally the exact moment it happened was we were talking about living together, and I knew no doubt about it. I love her. I'm gonna be with her forever, and there's never gonna be anything that's gonna change that. But in the Bible, it's very clear that is living in sin. So there I am. It's what was that? It was in Hebrews 10:26, I think, where it talks about if you live in sin and you actively do that, you continue actively sinning, then basically making the crucifixion of Christ for nothing. It's making the whole thing for nothing. You got to pull that.
So, yeah, for if we sin willfully, after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins.
So what did Jesus did was for nothing if we sin and continue doing it willfully. So once the Bible started jumping out of the book and into my face, then all right, we need to start evaluating things, and then to really look at another marriage. And the greatest thing that ever happened was marrying her. But I didn't want to put our parents back through another wedding. And even though we knew that it was going to be forever, it was the flesh looking at it and knowing what me and my friends and my family and all the humans would look at it as another wedding for Jesse. All right. But the way I've said it before, I've said it a bunch here recently, is that as an atheist, I was 0 for 4. But as a Christian, I'm batting 1,000. So to know that the Bible defines it. The Bible defines marriage, sin, everything in life. So all right, let's do it. let's do it. And to have that knowledge now as we go through life, one of the greatest things that both of us ever did was, get married.
Yeah, and the thing about me saying, my dad said, without Christ, you're never going to make it and all this kind of, and it's so true. It is absolutely true, because us as humans, we are all sinners. Every single one of us, we are sinners. And, at the first, thing of a fight, or the first thing of an argument, the first thing I always wanted to do was run, and it's like, marriage is so much more than that. It's, when you look at it as, and I didn't go into any one of them thinking that, okay, if it doesn't work out, I'm going to divorce. I went into every single one thinking that it was going to be forever. You obviously can't help what somebody else is in it for. So if they're in it for the wrong reasons, and obviously if you don't have God and you don't find God and God's not anywhere to be found in it, it's not going to work. But I just, I look at it now and it's like, we do not have a marriage that, there's never a disagreement and there's never we don't see eye to eye. I mean, I am the most hardcore perfectionist OCD person on the entire face of the earth. And that's just what it is. He is not. Okay? Total opposites. How we view certain things of, allowing certain things to slip by and certain things to not. We don't see eye to eye. But there never once and will never be a time, the promise that we made to each other is you never throw out the word divorce, ever. That's not an option. No matter how mad you get, separate for, a little bit, cool down, come back together, have a conversation, whatever it is, but you never throw out the word divorce. And here's why. You throw out the word divorce, you are taking away the safety of that other person. Whether you mean it or not, once you throw those words out, you can't bring those words back. So, I was talking to a lady the other night, and I said that, and as soon as I said, once you throw out the word divorce, she said, yeah, you take away the safety. And that's exactly what it is. You throw that word out of, okay, well, I'm going to file for divorce because I don't like whatever you did, or, I don't know, didn't clean up, I don't know, whatever your reasoning is, you throw out that word. That other person from now on is walking on pins and needles, waiting for the next time that you're going to throw it out there, or thinking that, oh my gosh, they're going to go divorce me and I'm not going to know, I'm going to be blindsided by something or whatever. That's not something that you just throw around just because you're mad or you're not getting your way or something doesn't go 100% the way that you would have decided it went. I mean, you can disagree and you can not see eye to eye, but don't throw that out there. Don't throw the word divorce no matter what's going on. And so that part makes me sad. I know people personally that threw that out for years and are now divorced. And it's heartbreaking. That is heartbreaking. But, I look back over my life in particular. Like I said, I was married for the first time 2 months after I turned 19, or a month and a half after I turned 19. And, obviously I didn't have the tools at the time to ever be married. I was raised in a super sheltered home. Never had my own bank account, never paid my own bills, nothing, and then thought it was a great idea to get married. I have no idea. But I don't wish I knew the things then that I know now, because like he said, we wouldn't be here. We've traveled this path that's probably been a lot more hard and treacherous, bumpy, a lot more obstacles than most. But obviously, we also have things that we have been through that a lot of people can't say that they have been through to be able to help others. And so we feel like God has put us in a position now to be a help and to be a light and to hopefully help people navigate through the mess and the disasters.
And my old buddy Billy Graham says that a good marriage is made out of two good forgivers. And really, that's it. To forgive and forget and move on. And the Bible talks about don't let the sun go down on your wrath. Let's the enemy come in there and poke in your head while you're asleep. And the best advice I was ever given was never miss an opportunity to shut up. So with those little bits of advice, that'll help somebody somewhere. I wish I'd have taken that advice. Well, I do. I mean, but that's the thing with all our divorces and all my alcoholism and all this stuff. I don't regret any of it. It was painful, most all of it, but absolutely necessary. For one, necessary for me to find Jesus. Had none of that happened, had none of my life happened, I wouldn't be here talking about Bible quotes. I wouldn't be doing that. So I'm super elated that it all happened. But with that, there's certainly some advice that I could give in a lot of different areas. And most of the time, I don't like just talking about all the things all at once. Asked questions specifically from time to time, and I'll usually give my best advice at that time. So.
Yeah, and I mean, throughout our podcasts, we've talked about this, and some of our previous ones that were done, I guess, last year, is if there's any topic that you have a question on, email us or send me a message through Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and we would be happy to, if we know an answer, we'll be happy to touch on it, and it can be anonymous. I mean, we don't have to put your name out there, but if you ever have a question about something, like he said, the number of divorces we have been through, a little bit high on the chart, but anything about divorce, separation.
Don't know, we won't make anything up. We might know somebody that knows about something. So that's one of the important things is we know what we know. And we don't know it, we're not going to blow smoke. We're really not. And so if we got the advice, we will gladly give it. And we know somebody else that does. That's kind of the way the whole thing works.
Yeah. And I've talked to a couple of people, recently that I know are really struggling with the fact of, well, I just can't imagine what, my ex is told all their girlfriends, or what my ex is talking to with my, their new boyfriend, or what they're, and it's like, at the end of the day, y'all, it doesn't matter. And here's why. Because we are all the villain in somebody's story. All of us. No matter what the story is. I mean,
we're all somebody's crazy ex, aren't we?
Yeah, but I mean, I learned a long time ago, after one of mine, it's like the people that truly want to know the truth will come and ask, or that truly care will come and ask. The ones that already have their mind made up will just run and tell whatever they want to tell. If you're dating one of the exes, it probably won't take you long to figure out what's really going on. And so let them talk all they want to talk, because the truth always comes out. Always comes out. And I have some stories that when you just sit back and allow the truth to come out on its own, some people will absolutely be floored at what they find out. And some people may not. I mean, some people may just know and don't care. But You don't have to run and tell your side of the story. You don't. You don't have to lose your sanity and lose your energy over trying to say what's right and what's wrong and this is what this is and you should know the kind of person I am. Y'all, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
And it's the real truth on the whole thing is that it's none of my business what other people think of me. If I'm living my life the way I know is the best way, then it's none of my business what anybody thinks. And that's some of the greatest advice that can be given is that I don't have to go and defend my anything. You know, it's none of my business. It's none of my business what anybody thinks. It's between me and God and Wylia, and that's it. That's the real truth.
Yeah, and you know, something that I learned too, I guess right after we had started dating, I may have touched on this in a previous one also, is I spent most of my life having a lot of guy friends, tons of guy friends. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at the time. I mean, when you're single, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And when you're married, I guess there's nothing wrong with that either. However, what I spent most of my life doing was, I say most of my life, probably the last 10 years or so before him, was not closing down doors of exes. It was like I was still friends with them. So I would, randomly receive texts from them or randomly, we were friends on Facebook or whatever, however you want to look at it. And what you realize when you're actually doing what you're supposed to be doing and what God calls you to be doing is you don't leave doors and portals open for things that could possibly cause damage to something that God has put together. So, and everybody may not be like that, but before Jesse and I got engaged and all the things, there were relationships as far as, and I say relationships, there were friendships, they were honestly friendships at the time, with exes that I had to go and shut those doors down completely. And it was like, not because anything had happened, it was kind of like okay, well, if this doesn't work out, then I always got back up. Or if that doesn't work out, then I always got back up. Y'all, let me tell you that leads to things that could either be misconstrued, honestly misconstrued, or that leads to, I think there was a lot of things both of us were like, things would happen with you, and I was like, oh yeah, I know what she's doing. And you're like, no, that's not it. And then things that a guy would reach out, and I, honestly, I was like, no, that's not what they mean. He was like, yes, it does.
Yeah, it does.
And so both of us were like, really? Like, honestly, like we were thinking like, no, like I don't see them like that. Or like, no, I don't see them like that. And it's like, no, I can tell you what they're doing because I'm a girl. And he'd be like, oh, I can tell you what they're doing because I'm a guy. And it was like, oh, okay. So we both had to just draw lines and boundaries of like, okay, well, if that's what you see it as, and if that's what you see it as, then we're just going to shut down things altogether, of not leaving any room for something like that to be taken any further. And not that, I still have guy friends. I don't talk to them on the phone or whatever. He still has girlfriends, but he doesn't really, there would be nothing that either one of us would say that couldn't be said in front of each other. But it's, if that leaves any room in your relationship, if there's an ex that you're holding on to because something may not work out or whatever, like search your heart and just see why you leave those doors open. Because like I said, for me, in years past, it was like, there honestly was nothing going on at the time, but it was like, well, if something doesn't work out, then I always have.
In case of emergency, break glass.
And so it was like, okay, so just be done with that, And there's there's nothing that either one of us have distrust on, but it's like, he could take my phone for an entire weekend and I would not be freaking out. It'd be like, okay, give me your phone, like, just so I have a phone in case something happens. But it's like, he can pick my phone up at any time. If he needs to look something up, I've left mine in the truck many a times and needed it in a store to take a picture of something. He just hands his phone over. Like, there's nothing that we have to be afraid of with each other. So if there's things that you have to be afraid of in your relationship or your marriage, you might want to check yourself as to why.
It's a good test, is to see if you get nervous whenever your wife grabs your phone.
Yeah, and I hear from certain people that, like, their spouse or whatever locked them out of their phone, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's, again, it's like, I don't go through his phone, he doesn't go through my phone, but it's like, we've both been in positions that it's like, I don't have my phone, can I use your phone? And it's like, yeah, here, take it. Like, there's no reason for us to lock each other out because we have nothing to hide. And so I just know that I had to stop some friendships like that, as far as like nothing had happened. We're just no longer friends on Facebook. We're no longer friends on Instagram. We don't text each other. Like, I have a couple of them that are blocked from my phone because they would send the most random texts. Like, hadn't talked to them in forever, and it'd be like, I was in Austin and I thought about you, and it's like, what the heck? Like, I hadn't heard from you in like 3 years. Like, why in the world are you sending a message? And it was just stuff like that. But so it was like, okay, block. Like, I don't have any reason there's no reason for me to keep that door open. But, honestly, it's keep God first. If there's something that makes your spouse like uncomfortable, weirded out, whatever, like, check yourself as to why. Like, it shouldn't be a gaslighting thing of like, oh, well, I can't believe that you don't trust me for such and such and such. Like, it shouldn't matter. I mean, like, that's your spouse and that should be your number one. And then everybody else comes after that. There should be no gaslighting as to, well, I don't know why that bothers you, or I don't know why that. And it's like, I shouldn't have to get into this whole big long thing with you. I'm not saying that you cut everybody out of your life. I'm just saying you might want to figure out why, what the reasoning is behind it.
And the Bible says you are one flesh, and that's really it. If one flesh, one phone, it's the same kind of thing. So if we can, be completely and totally transparent, 100%, no secrets, and that's the number one thing, is that there is nothing that I have to hide from her other than Christmas presents or something like that. But there's no secrets. There's no secrets. And that's the best part of it. The biggest deal is to have no secrets, not be ashamed of anything with each other. And we got that. We're a team. We are one flesh, one team, and then we can go about the planet talking to whoever. Don't have to worry about what I said to this people about her. Ain't none of that. None of that is even an issue, because everything I say in front of her, and that's the part of a relationship that I don't know, everybody does it, but I did it a bunch. Is that I had secrets. I had stuff I couldn't share. I had people I had to keep away from my wife because I had said too much. So now there's nothing, no secret, no secret passcode on a phone. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And if there is, then we got some work to do. I better start getting, get right with the Lord, as they say. But there is no secrets, and that's the best bit of advice.
And it's so much easier when you don't have secrets or lies to cover lies, or it's like, I can't remember yesterday, so I'm like, if I started lying to somebody, I'd be in trouble, because I'm like, I have no idea what I ate yesterday. But, yeah, I mean, I just know people that it's like they say something, and it's like, okay, you literally just told me like 2 days ago something else. But, so it's like, if you're doing that with your spouse, you might want to see why. And again, no gaslighting. It's not their problem. It's not their problem that they caught you doing something or caught you lying to them or
And that's one of the best things about getting sober. One of them, one of the many, but is that if you don't ever lie, you don't ever have to remember anything. So you don't have to remember who you told what to or who you got to keep this away from. It don't matter. It don't matter. You don't have to remember nothing if you don't ever lie.
Yeah, so if y'all have any questions, about anything, divorce, we haven't really got the, being great at marriage thing down. We've only been in this 2.5 years, I guess.
We're all stars at it. We got
But,
it.
we can
It
tell you all the
wasn't hard.
things not to do, obviously. But yeah, if y'all have any questions about that, any questions about or a topic you want to hear about, or Jesse I started reading the Bible in a year. I started in January, and so I'm getting through it, but obviously I haven't got through it yet. But Jesse's been through it 4 times, 3 times, 3.5 times, and so he knows a lot of the, scriptures, and he's really good about certain things. I'll text him and be like, hey, what is this scripture? Where is this found? Or whatever. But yeah, if y'all want us to talk about a topic, if y'all want to know more about something, let us know. Really anything.
Pretty much.
So is there anything else you got to say?
I think that's it.
Okay, so we posted sermon from this past Sunday on our YouTube channel, and we will be doing them from now on. And so we will be back Sunday, I guess, with the sermon. Unless something pops up in our head before then. But Sunday. But yeah, thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a good night. Bye.
Bye.